I'm a high school dropout, I'm a college dropout, and none of the degrees that I was going to school for even are what I'm doing now, you know? So it's really just kind of like finding your dogma.
Why is mindset for you, for your personal journey, why was that so important to you?
Oh, mindset is everything. I think our biggest blockers in life are, more often than not, our perspective on a situation rather than the situation. And I think I was always going to be a stuck person if I wasn't able to change the way that I was viewing certain things. And that is mindset.
It's not for you or against you, the universe.
Right, yes.
Right?
Yes, it's just it's doing its thing, right? And it's you understanding the ebbs and flows of it and then just finding your rhythm in it, right? Understand that you are supposed to take losses, you're supposed to take wins, and none of it is personal.
Hi, and welcome to Common Denominator, a podcast about growth, mindset, and entrepreneurship. I'm Moshe Popack, and today we chat with Nebiha Boudjoudad. Nebiha is a fitness and mindset coach who believes in a holistic approach to mental and physical fitness and is a big believer in the 12 laws of the universe, including the laws of action, laws of attraction, and the law of correspondence. We'll dive into that and discuss how to get unstuck when you're thinking of launching a business. So enjoy my conversation with Nebiha. Hi, Nebiha, and welcome to Common Denominator.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So I know super important in your life is the 12 laws of the universe.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, man. So the 12 laws of the universe are absolutely amazing. I highly recommend anybody look into it if they don't know what it is. But it speaks to essentially this non-spoken language that every human and animal, plant, right, all life beings kind of fall into, right? So the 12 laws, we mainly know the law of attraction. I think everybody just always references that when they think about it. But there's so many, and they're all reliant on each other. So
I know what really speaks to me is the law of correspondence.
The law of correspondence itself really speaks to the chaos or the calmness that you have, right? I think right before you go to sleep definitely makes sense because you have time to give yourself clarity and understand who you are and what you've been processing throughout the day. And it also gives you reflection, right? Like, where did my day go wrong? Where was my day crazy? And what was my thoughts throughout the day? Because correspondence really just means, am I thinking in a bad light? Am I an angry person? Am I a sad person? Am I a poor me person, right? And then all of these emotions really do vibrate in a way that is going to translate everything to everything else around me. So if, my car is getting towed, I'm always getting parking tickets. I break everything I touch. I always lose my keys. There's mayhem around me, and it speaks a lot to the order within my mind. There's also the law of oneness, which I love because it helps people stop thinking individual and think in a mass, right? When you think of the law of oneness, you think of everybody being one. And so we're kind of interconnected on this web. And each of us individually are maybe like a notch within the web. And so we're connected to all these different strands. And if you shake one part of the web, then you're shaking the rest of the web too, right? And this speaks to all life force.
The idea of oneness, I love that idea, and I always think about it a lot. And I think of practically how do we, if we're, let's say, on a lower, if someone, generally people, right? So we deal with our day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
And we're battling the world, and we're set up that way.
Yeah.
How do you raise your vibration or raise your viewpoint that it's good to say theoretically, but how do we have practical tips or tools to step into that oneness, to really be open to that?
Yeah, that's a good question. One, I think it is important to do what you just said, right? When you're in a space of you're going through the chaos of your own day, to remember that every decision that you're making is impacting somebody along the line, right? So I think it helps to almost get us out of our own heads, right? Where it is kind of a stress reliever, right? If I'm so stressed out because I'm thinking about this one water bottle and how much I need this one water bottle, but I'm remembering how much everything else around me is impacted by my decisions, this one water bottle seems so much smaller. And then so my problems or my stress management around this becomes easier. Does that make sense?
Completely. And the other thing is, we're always looking to, it seems like, as I know myself, whenever there's something going wrong, I've learned that what's inside is what's outside. It's really a reflection of something bothers you.
Yeah.
It's work that you need to do on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
It also speaks to your triggers, right?
Right.
The way you're viewing life through a lens that you've compiled all of these triggers around, right? So you have like this rose-colored lens to it. This is what's interesting when you kind of get into the laws is how married they are to each other. They all sound so similar when you go through them. Like the law of correspondence, which is the as above, so below, kind of reflects another law, which is cause and effect, and then the law of compensation. And then so compensation kind of speaks on whatever you put out is what you get in. The universe has this urge to keep balance, right? So it's always looking for balance. So when you give out positive energy, the universe is going to balance that out by giving it back to you, right? So that's interesting to think about. And cause and effect kind of speaks on, I mean, quite plainly, right? It's a domino effect. I do one thing and then it affects something else. But like I said, they're all kind of married to each other. So when I think of cause and effect, it reminds me of the law of oneness, right? And then in that space being that I'm doing something now, I have an action now, and maybe in 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years, I've affected or impacted masses of people without, being knowledgeable of it because it was just one little thing that I did previously. So, and to that, I think when I get into cause and effect, reminding me of oneness, for me to kind of be in charge of my cause and effect, it reminds me of the law of correspondence. Whereas like, I want to make sure my inside is good for my outside because cause and effect, I can do this, and then in 10 years it can affect somebody because that is the law of oneness. And then so we're all connected. Do you see what I'm saying? Like everything
Completely.
kind of like, they lean on each other.
I assume you came in your adult life, you probably went through a certain experience and you started to journey and came across like I always think of like like a framework, right?
Yeah.
A framework of for humans, right? You can't just go about life haphazardly.
Right, yeah.
Right? So you probably were doing that and seeing not great results.
Yep.
Right?
I mean, that's how I came here. When I, kind of got into what I got into, it was just a lot of disorganization, a lot of chaos. And I was like, I need order,
Right.
And then so looking for order.
Mindset for you, I guess you came across having the right mindset as a framework to produce results. Why is mindset for you, for your personal journey? Why was that so important to you?
Oh, mindset is everything. I think our biggest blockers in life are, more often than not, our perspective on a situation rather than the situation. And I think I was always going to be a stuck person if I wasn't able to change the way that I was viewing certain things. And that is mindset. It's really just, cleaning that lens out.
So I know many people, it's just their actions, they keep doing the same thing, right? We always say that you should not expect a different result if you keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I always think about that, like what's a practical tool or tip, someone like you're talking about, right? They're stuck. How can they actually become unstuck and produce a better result for themselves and people they care about?
It's a really good question. I feel like there's a million ways to answer this. I think reference points, so data, looking at the way you're moving and collecting the results that you're getting from these actions, right? And if it's not moving you in a upward trajectory, then something needs to be adjusted, right? So I think it's being intentional about the results, being observational about the results, right? Paying attention, I think, is the biggest way to understand that there needs to be a change, and then putting the change into action can be a lot simpler if people aren't focused on doing massive, changes of grandeur and more so on just like small pivotal movements.
I think that's a very important point.
Yeah.
Also to gauge, I know what you're saying. In other words, the data points, and I've seen this with any type of success, is basically you're doing stuff for years, it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And you're basically you have a vision.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, like you're saying, maybe the vision's maybe too big, so you're not going to be able to see the results for a long time.
Right.
And that's hard because all it relies on is basically faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just see something, a vision that other people don't see.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that that's the hardest because when you're either people think you're crazy, right? And you have this vision of something you want to do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, most people drop out.
Yeah. Or what happens too, which is interesting. I'm glad you brought up the word vision, because sometimes people that don't have a vision are able to make massive strides. And I think that that's also interesting to be able to make a distinction against. So for people that are trying to accomplish things or want, better out of their life and they don't see the vision, there's still kind of power in that. Sometimes it's more about just taking a step in a direction versus it's like a writer that's having like a creative block. Right? You're not going to just sit around and wait for the creativity to hit you. What you do is you just pick up your pen and you start writing. And then creativity happens. Does that make sense?
Completely. It was interesting. I was playing a charity poker game, just a couple of days ago with my son. And I had a thought. I'm like, okay, who is going to actually win this tournament? I'm sitting there.
With you and your son?
No, well, my son, and there was like 100 of us.
Oh, okay.
Because poker is a good psychological, what actually ends up happening.
Yeah.
And when we got down to the final table, everyone at that point has been playing like there's rules and probability. But what actually happens at the table is it's like something strange that ends up happening against odds each time. And then the person with the least amount of chips, and everybody counted him out. And you talk about, because I think about like action. He was the one, and he was just moving forward. He was doing his thing.
That's powerful.
He was doing his thing.
Yeah.
And the guy had a chip stack. The other guy, he's the guy that took me out. I ended up 7th place, but he ends up, and he had just like nothing.
Yeah.
He goes all in 2, 3 times, 4 times.
Yeah.
Boom, and this guy that the outlier, again, the bell
underdog
curve.
Yeah.
The outlier ends up winning, taking out the guy that everybody thought was going to win.
Yeah.
And in reality, to your point, it works that way. It's the guy in the back doesn't say a word.
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
It's just the little petals.
It's strange.
Yeah.
And it's the guy that, like Forrest Gump, always use that example, right? He's just going, because that could win. Or the X Factor person that's been training 4 a.m. every single day for years in quiet and nobody's seeing. It's either on the opposite ends of that bell curve. Those are the ones that get the results.
Yeah. And the polarity of it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. So, I mean, to tie it back in, but, I understand we're moving forward, but I'm going to bring it back. One of the laws speaks to polarity and kind of this, right? There's 2 separate sides of something, where something for a person that's looking to accomplish just something so amazing, right? So beautifully powerful. Half of the time, the reason they don't accomplish that is because they're unable to deal with the losing, right? So that guy was kind of in the back quiet and was like losing the entire time. But the polarity of him being this underdog was that him winning the game was so large that he had to take an equivalent amount of losses. Does that make sense? So every time somebody takes a loss, they take it personal and they drop out of the race.
That's all because they think it has something to do with them.
Right.
Mastery, you talk about like stoicism or mastery of ego. It's not for you or against you, the universe.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Yes. It's just it's doing its thing. Right. And it's you understanding the ebbs and flows of it and then just finding your rhythm in it, right? Understand that you are supposed to take losses, you're supposed to take wins, and none of it is personal. And to everything that you want to achieve or accomplish in life, you have to have the polarity of that in failures.
Why do you think it's so hard for people to, like, especially whether it's in business or in physical fitness, to kind of begin?
Oh, God.
Right? To take that first step.
Yeah.
It's just this thing, and people are just like stuck. Why do you think that
like
is?
Like a blockage. It's very hard for people to see themselves in a light that they're not used to seeing themselves. Meaning, I look in the mirror and I see this person every single day. And for me to operate and move and function like this world-renowned CEO, multi-billionaire person, I have to truly envision myself as that person that I have not been yet, right? This person with 6-pack and 2% body fat or whatever it is. And it's very hard to get into that mindset of that. And then so I think that that's not realistic. And then so because it's not realistic, it's not attainable. And then so why try? Right? So it's a lack of delusion. Maybe the people that are hesitant are a little
really
sane.
Love that.
So it's like...
No. I honestly, I mean, they said, okay, so it's basically, it has to be, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a dream, right? Look at Elon Musk.
Yep.
Perfect example.
Insane.
I mean, think about it, right? I'm going to Mars.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Like, no one's been to Mars.
Yeah.
You're not going to Mars. I know what you're talking about.
He's there every Tuesday.
But he's going to Mars.
Mimosas.
Right. Right. I mean.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you unwavering ideas. And I mean, fortunately, he had some big breaks. There was a time, I think 2008, where he was deciding, I think, between Tesla and maybe Starlink, which to fund, and it was like down to his last monies.
Yeah.
And I believe that also. My grandfather told me that also. You're talking about different laws. And I always like to quote my grandfather because he was always just right on point from life experience. He would say to me, if you give everything of yourself, everything possible, all the way down to the end, meaning you have nothing left in you, you're down to the end, at that point, the universe steps in and helps you all the way through the end.
I love that.
I'm telling you, there have been times where I'll be like, oh my God, what's going to happen? And boom. And I've seen it over and over. And that's where 100% faith comes in. You're like, you know what? I've done my part.
Yeah.
And
but that takes a willingness to get to that point, right?
And I know also, I know you've had a lot of failures, and I know a lot in social media, people talk about failures, but I really want to, as a practical idea, what can we learn from failure? In other words, why is it so important, and why really it should be front and center of the conversation?
Yeah, failure is everything. And it's interesting because there's such a negative outlook on it. And I think that people need to change the narrative that they give themselves when they think about failure. Failure is so beautiful. It's such an amazing thing. And I think when somebody's able to switch that, the way they look at that, I think about it like this. If I want $1,000, I have to fail at something 1,000 times. But if I've only failed 2 times, you know what I'm saying? How am I supposed to get $1,000? Like, you have to look at failures as like you check it off of your
line item, right?
Yeah. You know, and I think that's what stops people from everything. It's like you learn from it, you grow from it, you experience new things. And I think a lot of people have this fear of starting from scratch or starting from the bottom, but you never start from scratch, right? Every time you fail, you've just gained all of this knowledge and skill and experience. And then so now you're starting from that vantage point. So there's an excitement to that, you know, and I think people are they haven't made that switch mentally.
Right. They have to. It's you to you, right? You're looking instead of within yourself. You're looking. It seems like to please other people or what other people think.
Yeah.
It's hard. It
is that like a little bit of ego? There's
always some ego, and it takes. I hope more youth, teenagers. Their system, right? You gotta go to high school, then you gotta go to college, and you gotta do this, and you gotta get the job. There, especially now, information with the internet, everything's available.
I know. Yeah.
Right? I always say that. So if you're motivated and you want to do something, it doesn't matter the age.
Yeah.
Right. And you gotta take risks. And I always say, take them young and fail young.
Yeah.
So you have a lot more
Yeah.
Right?
Time to kind of get it right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm not in no way saying that people shouldn't go out and get an education, but I do feel like the school system has failed us terribly.
Right.
I mean, I'm a high school dropout, I'm a college dropout, and none of the degrees that I was going to school for even are what I'm doing now, you know? So it's really just kind of like finding your dogma. Like, what's your purpose? What kind of makes your heart like burn and move in that direction, and just seek the knowledge of that, right? So whatever that is.
It's funny, we share that we both moved from New York.
Yeah.
Both grew up in Queens.
Yep.
Moved down here. How long have you been down here in Florida?
I think 8 years.
But
Yeah.
I assume you're much happier living down here in Miami.
Oh man,
Right.
that's no debate. Yeah, I love it. I can't complain. New York just makes me depressed sometimes.
Yeah. I don't go back too often
Me either.
personally. I mean, who doesn't want sunshine 300 days a
Right.
year?
I say that all the time. Weather
Yeah.
really impacts me. Like if it's dark and gray outside, I don't want to go outside. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah. But when you came, you basically came with nothing. When you came down here,
Yeah.
and so now you're, I guess through your resilience, now you're a fitness coach. How has that been for you? In other words, I guess this is your passion. What you're doing is training. You love, as far as training for, yourself and friends and
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah. So my passion is not necessarily just training. My passion is more so taking people from a space of them not believing in themselves and not thinking that they're going to be able to be anything that they want to be, and then transform that. And I've noticed the best way to do that is in the gym, because you do start to build certain character traits that I find the most successful people have. Does that make sense? So I think giving a foundation of fitness helps kind of lead into that, because a lot of the coaching that I do does revolve around mindset. So I love when I get a client and she's essentially just like, oh, I just want to lose weight. And then like 4 months in, she's got a career path change or, she has like this new belief in herself, this new like confidence. And that's what I love about training, not just kind of going to the gym. And
People look at all the, success, like the glory and the glamour. My son and I were talking about this the other day. It's actually just, you talk about like the gym, that discipline. That's actually what it is. Process and procedure consistently over a long period of time.
Right. Without
That's
instant
all.
gratification.
That's right.
And that is important. And I think once you're doing that process and procedure and understanding that you're going to do things that are going to feel mundane and boring over and over and over and over again, and probably not get a result visibly for a long time, and be okay with that and still do it, like that's where it is. That's where the money is.
It's interesting. I got one of my social media posts. I posted it about the concept of instant gratification. That if you need it, I was like, just go to the gym, go do something else, but don't apply the need for instant gratification to your business.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you can't.
Let that be your long-term goal. You're setting up
Yeah.
yourself and your family, the people you love, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And do not ever look for that instant gratification in business. Some wins, some losses. You're just going along the path, and then you have your other things that you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's super interesting. And I know you're about to launch an app. Tell us about that.
So I can't say too much about it, but it is an app strictly for entrepreneurs. It's a very unique app in the sense that it aligns people with the same mindset, but I can't really get into the details about how the app works and all that.
No, but I like the idea. Once you've identified a problem, you're like at least halfway there.
Yeah.
And it's like, if I need it, then probably other people need it.
Yeah. What's interesting is how the app started was literally that. So I'll tell you a really quick background story. I was on the Ellen Show. I won some money. I had a falling out with some of the people that I was on the show with. And within all of that, like hustle and up and down and everything that was happening, the people that I had connected with that we ended up going on the show with, I connected with them because I was looking for a community of people and found it this is when I first came to Miami. And I was like, why is it so difficult to find people that are serious about what they want to get done in life? You know, they want to really help people and really connect and really have business and grow versus just finding a whole bunch of like the party crowd, right? And I was like, why can't I find this? And so, you know, the birth of the idea came along with half of the funding for the idea at the same time. And it was kind of like.
So I'll also just mention I'm part of a business network and it's pretty good. It's called YPO.
Okay.
So they have maybe 30,000 CEOs and managing directors worldwide. And it breaks a barrier, which I really like. It's if I'm going to, I don't know, to Italy, if I'm going to Italy and I want to get some business done, I can go into that network. And since you're part of the YPO, be able to break the barriers. So all those ideas to break barriers and okay, this person's good, he's trusting, hardworking. Yes. We already gone through that.
Right.
And then you get down to the meat and potatoes.
The filter that you have for these people.
The filter, right. Yeah. So anything that does that is I think is fantastic.
Yep. That's awesome.
Right. And then just connecting, again, good people trying to get stuff done.
Yep. Exactly
right?
that.
So I think that's really, really good.
Yeah.
So for me, I just had this question because just from a nutrition standpoint, my wife read this book about the benefits of celery. So I've been celery juice. So
I was about to say you're doing the celery juice.
So I'm doing a celery juice detox past couple weeks.
Yeah.
Feel great. I've instinctively felt that I've like, and it's something always to look into, like your alkaline versus your acidic, your pH balance.
Yeah.
What would you recommend as far as do you believe in detox, or what would you recommend as far as you know, a food intake or from a nutrition standpoint?
So well, question, are you doing the celery cleanse? That's the only thing you're drinking?
No, so I'll do that, and that'll be my first thing I'm drinking till I have some, let's just say, oatmeal by.
But then you eat
o'clock.
For the day.
And I'll eat. Yeah.
Okay.
But clean.
Yeah.
Fish and salad and chicken.
So you have to think your digestive tract is very much like it's like a motor that's always being ran, and you're constantly like feeding it with stuff. So when you think of like juice cleanses or fasts, the purpose is to kind of allow that whole system to give itself a break, because that's really the only organ besides like our heart and our lungs and our brain, you know, that we're like abusing like every day. And so it gets tired, and we don't really ever give it a rest or let it kind of like refuel or rebuild itself. I think doing like, my fiance does juice cleanses a lot, but he'll do like 3 days with like just water. And then it's a little crazy.
No.
But he'll feel absolutely amazing, and I'm so like gung-ho about it. I think the best thing you can do is probably give yourself maybe like once a month or twice a month, just a full wash out where you're not putting any solids in there at all, and kind of just allow your body to process that, because you're also wasting a lot of your energy expenditure on food breakdown, and some foods are a lot harder for you to digest. So
yeah, because I also you'll sleep better.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't realize, my son bought me a ring, and it checks my heart rate while I'm sleeping, and if I don't eat 6 hours before, then my heart is more at rest, and you get more restful sleep.
Yeah,
because
that's very interesting.
If you're digesting, then your heart needs to pump more.
Yep.
It's super cool.
So your whole body like will reboot itself. I really think it's fascinating. So I think that would be the biggest recommendation.
And what would you say? Something that you're really, really grateful for?
Oh my God, everything. I am grateful for. I'm honestly grateful for the people that are in my life. Literally every single person has just through time molded me, and you know, nurtured who I am, and just kind of, you know, spoke life into me. I'm very grateful for the people, especially the people closest to me. My fiance, my mom, they're everything to me. Their mindset. So people for sure.
And what's something about you that people don't know?
Oh my God. I like to write poetry.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful, great.
I'm a little bit of a writer. I like to write.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It helps get whatever's in the brain out.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
the creative side, I really like that.
I got a poetic soul, so I'm very
Beautiful.
romantic in that sense.
Well, I want to thank you so much. It's really,
Yeah.
really been informative, really great. And I'm going to do a lot of research on
I'll send you some
these
stuff.
12. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna love them.
No, because I mean, the idea of the show is to, again, get people's minds going and think
Yeah.
of things a little bit differently.
Yep.
So I appreciate that. I appreciate the ideas, and you should have tremendous success with all your business, soon to be married.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And how could people follow you on social, maybe reach out for coaching?
Yeah.
How can they go about doing that?
For sure. So my Instagram is at Wonebs. They could follow me on Instagram, my TikTok, and my YouTube channel are the same. And all of my websites and information is all linked on all of those pages in the bio. So you can just get my Instagram.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you
It's
for
been
having
great.
me.
Thank you.
Yeah, likewise.
Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Nebiha. If you're watching this show on Facebook or YouTube, we'd be grateful for a like, share, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, feel free to leave a rating and review. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon.